The news about my son reached me through the flickering screen of a colleague's phone while I was hundreds of miles away on a business trip. I had been traveling for 2 straight weeks, caught in a whirlwind of meetings and presentations. Finally, during a brief lull in the project, I had sat down for a proper meal when a coworker slid his phone across the table. "Mark," he said, "doesn't this look like your son?" In the shaky video, a young boy with a bloodied mouth and a noticeable gap where a tooth should have been was crying, talking about being bullied at school and wanting to drop out. The footage was grainy, but I recognized the voice instantly. It was my son, Leo. A cold dread washed over me. I fumbled for my own phone, my hands shaking as I searched for more information. It didn't take long to find my wife's social media account. She had posted a video of her own. In it, she spoke calmly, expressing forgiveness for the families of the children who had hurt our son. She mentioned nothing about holding the school or any other authorities accountable, simply stating that life goes on and children need to attend school. I was furious. I called her immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. I sent her a barrage of text messages. "Is this what you meant by taking care of Leo while I was gone? Is this how you handle him being assaulted?" I told her I was booking the first flight back and that she had better have a solid explanation for me when I arrived. Without waiting for a reply, I informed my boss about the urgent family matter, sending him the video as proof. He approved my leave without hesitation. "Go, Mark. Take care of your family," he said. I thanked him, grabbed my things, and hailed a cab to the airport. The entire ride, and later on the plane, I couldn't stop replaying the video of Leo. His heartbroken sobs echoed in my mind. I had raised him since he was a baby, and I had never so much as spoken a harsh word to him. The thought that he had been so viciously bullied at school, a place where he should have been safe, was unbearable. When the plane finally landed, I checked my phone and saw a single message from my wife, Sarah. "Let's talk when you get home." My anger spiked again. My son had a tooth knocked out, and all she could offer was a calm conversation later. I was determined to get to the bottom of it. If she wouldn't pursue justice for our son, I would. I couldn't be a passive father and let him suffer for nothing. When I walked through the front door, the sight that greeted me sent a fresh wave of rage through my body. Leo was huddled in a corner of the living room, trembling. Sarah was kneeling in front of him, gently dabbing at his injured mouth with a cotton swab. Seeing my son in such a state, I lost my composure. "Why didn't you do anything?" I yelled at her. "He's your son too. Are you even a mother, Sarah?" I clenched my fists, fighting the urge to do something I would regret, conscious of not wanting to scare Leo any further. She looked up at me, her expression unnervingly calm. "Mark," she said softly, "I'm planning to leave you and take nothing with me." Her words stunned me into silence. "What did you just say?" I managed to stammer. She repeated herself, her voice even and steady. "I'm leaving with nothing. I'm giving you the house, the savings, everything. You and Leo will be able to live comfortably, and my actions won't have any impact on you." A sense of unease began to creep over me, replacing my anger. "What are you planning to do, Sarah?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Don't do anything reckless. It's not worth it." She offered a small, reassuring smile. "It's all right, Mark. I've thought this all through. The school's security cameras didn't capture the incident, so we can't press charges. Even if we could, the penalty would be a small fine that any of those families could easily pay. They have no intention of even apologizing, but I'm not going to let it go. If they won't teach their children how to behave, someone else will. If something happens to me and there's a large settlement, it will help you raise Leo. The money will all be yours. You would agree to that, wouldn't you, Mark?" I looked at my wife, the woman who had been my partner through everything from our school days to our wedding. We had struggled for years to have a child, visiting countless doctors and spending a small fortune on treatments. When Leo was finally born, when Sarah was 35, it was after a difficult pregnancy and birth. We had poured all of our love and energy into raising him. He was the most precious thing in our lives. Looking at her determined face, a mix of emotions swirled inside me. Finally, with a lump in my throat, I nodded. "Okay," I said. Sarah's video forgiving the bullies continued to circulate online, drawing a storm of criticism from people who thought we were being weak parents. My own parents called after seeing it, demanding to know how I could let my son be raised by a mother like that. I simply told them, I trust Sarah. She will give me a satisfactory answer. As the father, I took on the responsibility of taking Leo for medical checkups and therapy sessions. During this period, not a single one of the 8 families whose children had bullied Leo reached out to apologize. A few days later, Sarah and I went to the Civil Affairs Office to file for divorce, a process that included a mandatory 30-day cooling-off period. She filmed the entire thing, documenting her decision to leave with nothing. When someone in the comments of her video asked about her future plans, she replied casually that she would probably set up a small snack stall near the school to earn a living. This news seemed to worry a couple of the parents. They called her, offering apologies and asking for forgiveness. She just chuckled and told them she wasn't holding them accountable, so there was no need to apologize. They became more frantic, but she ignored their calls and blocked their numbers. When they tried to go through the teachers, her answer remained the same. She had already said she wasn't pursuing the matter, and her plans for a stall were her own business. Once Leo had recovered enough, I resumed my duties of dropping him off and picking him up from school. One afternoon, a parent stopped me at the gate. "Hello," I said. "Can I help you?" The woman smiled. "Hi, Mark. I'm Chloe's mom. My daughter had a little conflict with Leo recently, and I wanted to formally apologize. She was in the wrong, and I've scolded her. Come on, Chloe, apologize to Leo." She pulled a reluctant little girl out from behind her. The girl mumbled, "Why is it just me? I wasn't the only one." Her mother pinched her arm sharply, and she finally muttered "Sorry, please forgive me." I simply took Leo's hand and started to walk away. The mother called after me, but I pretended not to hear. She grew anxious and hurried to catch up, grabbing my arm. Leo, startled, let out a small scream. I shook her hand off forcefully and crouched down to check on my son. The commotion drew a small crowd of other parents and students. Chloe's mom stood there awkwardly. "Mark, I am truly sorry," she began. "I just hope your family can forgive Chloe. It was just kids being kids, nothing serious." I comforted Leo for a moment, then stood up and looked her up and down before letting out a short laugh. "Sure," I said. "If you let us knock out Chloe's front teeth, we'll forgive her." Her face fell. "No way! Those are her adult teeth. She'll have them for the rest of her life." "If her teeth are so precious, so are our sons," I replied with a shrug. "If you're not here to offer a genuine apology, then don't bother us. Come on, Leo, let's go home. Dad's making your favorite braised pork tonight." Chloe's mom snapped. "My child already apologized. What more do you want?" "Is there a problem?" I asked innocently. "I haven't done anything, have I?" She took a deep breath, her voice rising with frustration. "You haven't, but your wife wants to set up a stall at the school." I spread my hands. "So what? She gave me everything in the divorce and left with nothing. There's nothing wrong with her trying to earn a living to pay her share of child support." The color drained from her face. "It was just a fight between children. Why do you have to drag the adults into this? If she does anything reckless, we'll see how many lives she has to pay with." The crowd around us grew larger, and Leo gripped my hand tighter. I squeezed it back to reassure him. Then, I raised my voice to address the onlookers. "This is perfect timing. Everyone here can be the judge. You've all seen the news about how our son was bullied so badly he wanted to drop out of school. We've already said we won't hold the bullies accountable, Yet this parent continues to harass us. What exactly is your goal here? Look at her daughter, Chloe. She was one of the ones who bullied my son. Is this right? Our kindness has its limits. Please stop harassing our family." Murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd. "Exactly," someone said. "They already said they won't hold a grudge, and they still get harassed." "If my kid bullied someone that badly," another added, "I'd be ashamed to show my face." The comments hit their mark. Chloe's mom flinched. Her daughter, red with embarrassment, spat. "Ugh, I don't even want to apologize. Mom, let's go." She tugged her mother's arm, and they quickly pushed their way through the crowd and left. Back home, Leo was quiet and seemed down. I crouched down to his level. "Are you bummed out about what happened today?" I asked softly. "Don't worry. Mom and Dad won't let you be treated like that ever again." Leo thought for a moment. "Dad, will the bad people get punished?" I held out my pinky finger. "I pinky swear we'll make sure they do. We won't break our promise." A small smile finally appeared on his face as he hooked his own pinky around mine. A month passed, and the online buzz about the incident died down. True to her word, Sarah rented a small stall near the school and started selling sliced watermelon. When children walked by, she'd offer them a piece with a smile. "Eat my watermelon," she'd say, "but promise you won't pick on my kid, okay?" When they asked who her son was, she'd show them a photo of Leo. "This one. He was bullied so badly he almost dropped out. Help Auntie keep an eye on him, all right?" The children would happily agree. Soon enough, a few fights broke out at the school. It turned out the kids on the receiving end were the ones who had bullied Leo. The children who fought them swore that no one had put them up to it. They just didn't like the bullies. A frustrated teacher pulled me aside after school one day to ask if I was involved. I listened patiently, and then said cheerfully, "Teacher, that's not my concern. It's not my child who's getting hit. It's just kids having disagreements. They'll learn and grow from it." I took Leo's hand and wished the teacher a good day. We were not going to let this go. Everyone who had hurt my son was going to pay for it, one way or another. One of the 8 bullies, a boy named Ben, had a particularly nasty encounter with a stray dog. He had been throwing rocks at it on his way home from school. The dog, predictably, retaliated, biting down hard on his hand. His parents tried to get the dog off him, but in the struggle, it tore one of Ben's fingers clean off. A passerby managed to kill the dog and pry its jaws open, but the finger was too mangled to be saved. An ambulance rushed Ben to the hospital, and his parents informed the school he would be absent indefinitely. The news spread through the school like wildfire. Tim came home that day chattering about it. I listened, a small smile on my face. "Does that make you happy, Leo?" I asked. He nodded without hesitation. "Yeah, but I feel bad for the doggy. It didn't do anything to him first, and it got killed." I patted his head. "It was a wild dog, son. It probably wouldn't have survived for long anyway. Just remember what I told you. Don't ever mess with strange animals on the street." The news report I showed him later confirmed it was a stray, as no one in the neighborhood claimed ownership. Ben's parents were unable to get any compensation and had to cover the tens of thousands in medical bills themselves. They managed to reattach the finger, but the nerves were destroyed, leaving it as little more than a cosmetic appendage. That night, Leo and I celebrated with burgers, his favorite meal. About 2 weeks later, another incident occurred. 2 more of the bullies, Oscar and Chloe, the same girl whose mother had confronted me, decided to skip their last class. They climbed over a school wall near where Sarah had her stall. A man named Victor, known locally for being rough around the edges, was buying a watermelon from Sarah. As he pulled out his wallet, a $100 bill fell to the ground unnoticed. Oscar and Chloe saw it, quickly ran over, and stepped on it. When Victor realized his money was missing, He turned and saw the two kids picking up the bill. He confronted them, but they denied it, insisting the money was theirs. Victor turned to Sarah, but she claimed she had been inside her stall and hadn't seen anything. Emboldened, the two kids started mocking Victor, accusing him of trying to scam them. That's when Sarah casually remarked, "What kind of parent lets their young children carry around $100 bills? Maybe they did just pick it up." Her comment seemed to give Victor more confidence. He again demanded the money, but the kids refused and tried to run, pushing and kicking him. This was the final straw. Victor, enraged, grabbed them, threw them to the ground, and picked up a loose brick from the pavement. He struck both of them before grabbing his money and fleeing the scene. Sarah just sat there, slowly munching on a slice of watermelon as she watched the whole thing unfold. Eventually, other parents passing by noticed the injured children, and a crowd gathered. The police and an ambulance were called. The next day, the police asked Sarah to come to the station as a witness. I went with her. The kids claimed Victor had attacked them without provocation. Victor claimed they had attacked him first. Calmly, Sarah stated, "I saw the children make the first move." One of the parents became irate. "How do we know you're not siding with this thug? It's pretty suspicious this happened right outside your stall. Maybe you instigated it." Sarah shot back. "Why would I do that? I'm just an honest vendor trying to make a living." Another parent accused her of doing it as revenge for the bullying incident. But the attending police officer shut that down, reminding them that they were lucky Sarah hadn't pressed charges for the bullying in the first place. Then, one of the parents turned on her again. "How could you just watch while my child was bleeding on the ground?" I chuckled. "Is it illegal not to help? What if Victor had turned on Sarah too? She has to think of her own safety." Sarah chimed in. "Exactly. I have a son to support. It's called self-preservation." The parents fumed, but were silenced by the officer. The main issue was the conflicting stories. Then, Oscar's dad claimed the $100 bill was his son's and accused Victor of robbery. As the argument escalated, Sarah slowly raised her hand. "Oh, I just remembered," she said sweetly. "I recently installed a security camera for my stall. Would you like to see the footage?" The video evidence was undeniable. It clearly showed the money falling from Victor's pocket and the two kids instigating the physical confrontation. The parents, red with shame for having wrongly accused Victor, were forced to apologize. The case was ruled as mutual combat, meaning each party was responsible for their own medical bills. Later, I discreetly gave Sarah $10,000 to pass on to Victor. "The poor kid really suffered today," I told her. "Make sure no one finds out." After these two incidents, the remaining parents were on edge. They tried to get me called into the school office. They politely explained that they were willing to offer compensation and an apology to Leo, hoping our family would stop whatever it was we were doing. I feigned shock. "I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. We're law-abiding citizens." One parent finally broke. "Let's be frank, Mark. We all know what's going on. Your wife is selling watermelons at the school gate for a reason. Our kids keep getting into accidents. Do you really think that has nothing to do with you?" I just smiled. My ex-wife and I agreed that since the children are young, we don't expect any financial compensation. However, your children absolutely owe my son an apology. The teacher arranged for the 5 remaining bullies to come to the office to apologize. They stood before us and reluctantly bowed their heads. But Leo just turned and buried his face in my arms, refusing to even look at them before he burst into tears. I frowned at the parents. "It seems Leo isn't satisfied with your very late apology, so let's just skip it. If you have evidence that we've done something wrong, please report it. If you're so worried about your children's safety, maybe you should consider homeschooling. My wife will continue to sell things at the school gate because she doesn't want our son to be bullied again. If you don't like it, you're free to transfer your children to another school." Of course, none of them wanted to do that, as this was the most prestigious school in the city. One parent, however, did make the decision to transfer her child. I was working late one evening when I saw Jessica, Alex's mother, picking him up from a different school. I had her number from a previous parent-teacher meeting, so I called her. "Jessica, it's Mark," I said. "I just saw you and was wondering why you transferred Alex." She sounded wary. "Why do you care?" "What a pity," I sighed. "My wife was just saying that business at Leo's school isn't very good. She was planning to find a new school to set up her stall. I guess she won't have to now. By the way, which school did Alex transfer to?" I watched from a distance as her face turned pale while she scanned the street, trying to find me. I hung up and rode my bike over to her. "What do you want from us?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Isn't transferring him enough?" I smiled. "What's wrong, Jessica? We're just moving our business. Is it money you want? How much?" I shook my head. "It's not about money. But if you truly feel sorry and want to offer compensation, we wouldn't refuse." We ended up at the local police station's mediation room, with Sarah and Leo joining us. I made it clear we wouldn't name a price. They had to decide what was fair. Alex's father started with an offer of $5,000. I sighed and brought up the cost of Leo's dental work and ongoing therapy. Their next offer was $30,000. I sighed again, mentioning that Leo's new ceramic tooth would need to be replaced every decade or so for the rest of his life. Panicked, they added another $30,000. I looked at Leo, who nodded eagerly. We signed the settlement agreement. After that, 2 other families who were friends with Jessica also came forward to offer compensation. A semester passed peacefully. The following spring, the school organized an outing. I packed Leo's backpack with snacks to share, and also a small leather slapstick, just in case he needed to defend himself. I also gave him a new phone watch. He left for the trip in high spirits. Halfway through the day, I got a call from his teacher. Leo had been in a fight. I jumped up so fast I knocked my coffee cup over. The teacher quickly reassured me. "Don't worry, Mr. Davis, your son isn't hurt. It's the other children who are—" Relieved, I took my time driving to the outing's location. When I arrived, I saw a familiar scene. The 3 remaining bullies, their parents, and a teacher. The boys were crying, each with visible injuries, while Leo stood before them looking like a tiny, triumphant warrior. The teacher was holding the leather slapstick. She explained that the 3 boys had tried to search Leo's bag, claiming they had lost something. When Leo refused, a fight broke out. One of the mothers was demanding they call the police. "No way!" Leo interrupted loudly. "They wanted my snacks and they tried to take my watch, so I fought back." I asked the teacher if there was any surveillance footage, but she said the area was a wide-open field. "Dad," Leo said, holding up his wrist, "I recorded it." The crying from the other boys stopped abruptly. I took the watch and played the recording. It captured the boys threatening Leo, telling him to hand over his snacks and watch or they would beat him up. They bragged that his mother's watermelon stall couldn't protect him out here, and that they would all lie and say he stole from them. The recording then filled with the sounds of a scuffle, cries of pain, and Leo's determined voice declaring that his dad had signed him up for self-defense classes and that he would knock them down every time he saw them. The parent who had been screaming about the police was now red-faced and silent. I apologized to the teacher for giving Leo the slapstick, explaining I just wanted him to be able to protect himself. One of the bullies started crying to his mother that he wanted to quit school because he was afraid of Leo. I looked at the parents. It seems clear this was self-defense on my son's part. Does anyone still want to call the police? I'm free to accompany you with the evidence. They conferred among themselves and decided to drop it, asking only for an apology and some money for medical expenses. I readily handed over $1,000. For me, $1,000 was a small price to pay for my son finally being able to stand up for himself. On the way home, I praised Leo for his courage, but reminded him that self-defense was only for protection. Not long after, the last 3 bullies transferred schools. The day after they left, Leo came to us, a hopeful look on his face. "Dad, Mom," he said excitedly, "now that nobody dares to bully me, when are you two getting back together?" Sarah and I looked at each other and smiled. "Tomorrow," I said.